Hello. For January 2019, I want to start the year by doing something new. And for that, I had to look for something old. And that is a friction folder. So a friction folder is an old style of knife that's starting to become popular again. There's a number of Japanese companies making the very traditional style, and a few European makers like Fox are bringing more modern style friction folders onto the market. So I figured for this month I would try a new form factor of knife, new to me anyway, and I carry two different types of knives over the month, just to see if it's a friction folder thing or form factors. What's up? In my month of use, I found that I love friction folders. They're fantastic knives. They are more for the enthusiast collector category of people, but they're still very functional and very good knives. So the top knife is a custom from Wandering Ronin Knifeworks out of the USA, and the bottom is a Spyderco friction folder. So this is more of a production example. The Spyderco is 3D sculpted G10 all the way around, G10 backspacer as well, and titanium hardware. It has Teflon washers and a VG10 steel blade. And the two styles, there's a Japanese style friction folder where the tang is going to have a flat spot, and that will prevent it from over travel. Both of these examples use a stop pin, which will prevent the knife from rotating any further and keep it in a locked position. This knife is on VG10 steel, so if you have any experience with Spyderco's baseline Delica, Endura, any of those knives coming out of Seiki City, Japan, this is right up there with them. It's the identical heat treat, same flat grind, all that good stuff. In my use, this knife is not salty, it is not salt proof, but it is fairly water resistant. So I've been using this in the kitchen a lot, and I found that its smaller form factor lended it more to everyday carry tasks. So I'll go more into this knife a little bit later, but other than that, performance, sharpening, all of that was spot on with your standard Spyderco VG10 knives. This guy, however, is a bit different. So this is a custom knife, Wandering Ronin Knifeworks, and with customs, it's really any deficiencies are usually up to you as the customer, where you asked for something and it may not have been the right choice. So this knife is in 1095 high carbon steel. The heat treat is spot on with any of my K-bars or any other fixed blades in 1095. It's just bang on with that one. So I use this one primarily for my heavier duty cutting tasks, and I've had no issues with it. It has a bit more of a complex grind on it, and that belly and the Spyderco sharp maker with the triangle rods took care of that no problem. One of the big differences with this guy is that it has a significantly longer tang on it, or the tab on the blade stock, and I found that for heavy duty tasks I liked having a bit of a longer tang. So when this blade, if it will get bound in material and you're trying to free the blade, that's when you'd have the danger of this guy closing on you. The longer tab on that would give me a bit better indexing, so I knew what the knife was doing in my hand at any point in time. So for that regard, as a user, like when it's out and you're using the knife, I found that I preferred this. But in other, like the overall length and carry is a bit diminished by having such a large tab on it. So other than the 1095, it's a G10 with copper inlays and then a stabilized wood. It's rocking an MXG clip on it. Standoffs instead of a backspacer, and it has a lanyard hole. The carry for this guy is only tip-up carry, and that's the other thing that I found with this knife. The knives are both fantastic knives. They both work as well as any knife should work, but this guy had a few issues with the carry, so we'll just jump right into that. The first thing I want to do is do a bit of a side-by-side. So comparing it with a Spyderco military and a Delica. Get something straight. So the Spyderco military is a very large knife, and the Delica is a fairly standard length knife for the market. And this knife is about the same blade length, cutting edge. It's very similar to the Delica, except the Delica does carry significantly smaller. This is significantly more artistic and stylish, but that extra blade tang is always going to be in your pocket and poking, and you don't get too much in terms of functional blade for that. It does help with deployment, but again, this blade tang is a little bit long for a quick deploy. So compared to like a modern knife, they deploy quicker. The form factor on modern knives are more space efficient than this guy would be, and yeah, so you can see that you're getting going like the edge to edge, like it's very comparable to a Spyderco Delica. It's like just a hair longer, but the form factor is significantly larger when it's closed. So that's one of the main drawbacks of a friction folder is when closed they're huge. For the amount of blade you get, they're just huge. So that's that guy, and then comparing these two. So this is going to be the Delica versus the Spyderco friction folder. So they're very, these ones are almost bang on for the blades. So the overall length is very similar for these guys. Just stacking them. They're the same length. But again, it comes down to when they're closed. Again, the Delica is thinner, carries better in most use cases, and this guy just has a huge tab. Alright, so that quick comparison aside, now we jump into the carry for friction folders. So I found in my use that tip-up carry doesn't work for me, and pocket clips do not work very well for friction folders. The reason why, especially with the specimen like this, it's just friggin' huge. And when it's clipped in, you can see that the blade tang goes all the way down, and it's like past the crotch of the pants. So like I found that the especially the very artistic and pretty shape on that was a little bit sharp, and it would scratch at my skin and poke me in the gentleman bits. So it wasn't a very comfortable knife to carry. It's very stylish, it looks good, it feels great in the hand, but the carry for the deep pocket clip wasn't where it needed to be. And then also the other thing that I found was a bit of a safety was moving around, the blade would sometimes open a little bit because that tab is so long, it's very easy to pivot the blade out, and when I was drawing the knife, I'd accidentally cut up some pants. So I ended up, I blunted the tip a little bit just so it wouldn't be as slicey, and spared my pants that way. And I found that I kind of stopped carrying this guy for my EDC use and had it more of as a hard worker because of the carry issues. So what other options do you have? The Spyderco decided to remove all carry hardware from their version of a friction folder, and they went with a sheath instead. So this sheath is not designed for pocket carry because it has zero retention. The way that they designed this clip is it's actually designed for a belt, and on a belt this guy will hold, and it will hold very well. So if you imagine there's a belt there, the knife would ride about that high, and there would have been the belt would hold the knife, or in the sheath rather, very well. The problem is that it rides so high that it would always be poking me in the ribs. So I had this weird quandary where it's either going to be a high riding knife or a low riding knife. I'm going to get stabbed in the ribs or stabbed in the hip or in the leg. I'm always getting poked by the tabs. So talking to a senior forum mate, and he just said, well, for friction folders, the best thing to do is to take off any sort of hardware and carry them in the fifth pocket for your pants. And once this was revealed to me, it changed how I carry the knives. So I found that carrying them in the fifth pocket is very safe. Even if you throw it completely in the pocket, you're in the danger of it opening up a little bit. But in the fifth pocket, even if the knife does open, when you're drawing the knife, it's tipped down, and when you're drawing the knife, it will close the blade on it. So it's very safe. The knife always comes out closed and in a safe position. The other thing I liked about this one is, if my hand's coming down, sorry, bad filming angle, but if I'm coming down, I'd pinch the pivot and it would just rotate into my hand. And then from here, I'm very quick to deploy the blade. I found that I could get this out of the pocket into my hand, deployed into the work faster than like other knives, especially things that are very grippy, like G10 with these deep carry pocket clips. These are very grippy, and to like force it out of the pocket, then like deploy and then like put it back in. I found that the friction folders are out, deployed, closed, back in. They're faster than slip joints, obviously, and they're even faster than flipper tabs in my experience. When you get used to these guys, they're very apt tools, but they do have the drawback of they're not as efficient as a modern design folder. You have that giant tab hanging off of them, and that's the main drawback about that, is the tab does compromise the carry. For dimensions, going to these guys, the Spyderco is a 3 3/4 body, and then the Marauder is a 4 3/4 body, and then the tabs on these guys, this is an 1.5" tab, and this is the part that's subjective, the tab length. This is a 1" tab. The 1" tab I found for my hand, I can one hand manipulate this guy left, right. It really didn't matter. I could operate this knife. This one with the longer tab was a bit of hand acrobatics to get it to open. I'm kind of have to move my hand out of the way. You can do it. It's just you're breaking your grip on the tool. Whereas in this position, I found that I wasn't breaking my grip as much. So I had a better grip on the tool with a shorter tab. So my recommendations are, if you're looking for a friction folder, who is it appealing to? It's appealing really to the knife enthusiast and collector. They're very functional tools, very good tools, but you want to, in my experience, look for knives that have more rounded profiles. This is very pretty, but it also does compromise the carry. In terms of carry, avoid lanyard and deep carry. Go for a more plain knife that you'll carry in your 5th pocket, and that's really, it's the fastest way to carry a friction folder. And the only other caveat about the 5th pocket is that not all 5th pockets are created equal. On my Levi's jeans, this 5th pocket is about 3.5 inches, and it accommodates this knife very well. I have other pants where the pocket is about 5 inches deep, and this knife would just fall all the way into the bottom, and you can't fish it out. Where the Marauder, when I removed the hardware, I started using the Marauder again with different pairs of pants that had a very deep 5th pocket, and then this guy was back to being a very good user. So that's my feedback and use case on friction folders. They're a very interesting design. They're very valid and safe tools, and it's just the problem is the carry of these guys. Just throwing them in your pocket isn't a great idea, but carrying them in that 5th pocket on jeans, that's the way to do it. Smaller tabs are better, and you really don't need giant knives to get a lot of work tasks done. So that's it. I love friction folders. They're fantastic, and both of these are going to be keepers. So thanks much, and take care.